Okay,
Okay.
we are talking to Ashley Lyn Olson, the President and CEO of WheelchairTraveling.com. Ashley, thanks for taking the time to join us for this conversation about traveling.
Yes, of course. I'm always happy to talk about traveling.
Great, great. So I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself to our audience. Tell us, about yourself. You obviously are a spinal cord injured person, but tell us how you got injured, when it was, if you feel comfortable talking about how you got injured, and kind of then how you got hooked up into traveling, and then kind of we'll take it from there.
Okay, yeah. So I have had a spinal cord injury for over 15 years now. I think it might be 17 years now, this July. I was injured in 1998, so I think that math is correct. I was injured in 1998. I was 14 years old. It was actually 2 weeks before my 15th birthday, so I guess I was basically 15 years old, but technically I was 14 years old, and my family was going to a reunion out in Colorado, and we live here in the San Francisco Bay Area. And somewhere around the borderline between Nevada and Utah, we just hit a really horrible monsoon rainstorm. Never seen anything like it. And the car hydroplaned and spun out of control, rolled off the side of the road. Lightning was striking within distance that we could see. It was kind of surreal, honestly. It was something that was just a very bizarre moment. And the next thing that I knew, I woke up in the hospital. So I didn't really remember much of the accident. I mean, the rain and the lightning was pretty much the last thing that I remember.
Okay.
But other than that, afterwards I was hospitalized for a good month. Spent a good month actually in ICU with lots of injuries, and briefly started my physical therapy when I was there, just sitting up in bed. That was kind of the start of all of it, and started my whole recovery and finished. I was actually a sophomore. It was summertime because we were, summer vacation and whatnot, going to the high school reunion, and I was going into my sophomore year of high school, and I ended up actually was able to finish high school on time, took 6 months off just to do homeschooling for those first 6 months, and then I went back to school, back to a new reality because it was a whole different property once I returned, and so to speak, from the standpoint of a wheelchair, of course, and did really well in school and worked really hard, got a very high GPA, and was able to earn myself a scholarship at the University of Southern California. Included my books, my tuition, my housing, food, everything. It was a huge gift. So right out of high school, I went straight to college and had that whole experience living by myself and, living outside of, the comfort of anything familiar, really.
Mm-hmm.
And my first time that I traveled was when I graduated high school, or my first really big trip, my first big international trip. I actually went to Europe, Greece actually, with a bunch of friends. It was our high school graduation, and we even went with some of our teachers, and a couple parents went as quote unquote chaperones, even though they weren't. They were having sometimes more fun than we were. And it was, it was before the Olympics, so nothing was accessible. Not one single thing in that country was accessible. I think throughout the entire 14-week trip, I found one ramp, which was fantastic, and I got myself a picture of it. Bathrooms, everything, wasn't accessible. And so anytime, I had to get in a stall, somebody would have to lift me up, or sometimes even going into a restaurant, I would have to be piggybacked, and somebody would have to take, one wheel off and then get it through the door and put the wheel back on. And sometimes it was quite a reduction, but I saw everything. I had a girlfriend who carried me up to the Acropolis, which I think now has an elevator, but
that's great.
It was absolutely thrilling. So that definitely kind of got my appetite and interest in traveling. And then when I was later in college, my second international trip was going to Berlin, which is definitely still one of my favorite cities in the world. And it really opened my eyes in terms of accessibility and how different traveling could be with even you have Europe. And I thought, here in the United States, it's kind of like the, EU in a way, but they're all countries, and even though they're all states, I kind of figured that there was some kind of international law, governing where there had to be some kind of access. Well, in Greece, like I said, there was no access, but now there is at least some, because of the Olympics, which is fantastic, definitely a huge step. But when I went to Berlin, I was so thrilled to actually experience some access, like there was some curb cutouts, and the hotel we stayed at actually had a shower I could roll into, and had a handheld shower nozzle, and the transportation, the bus, the light rail system that they had there. Not every station was accessible, but they had some that were, and so just the fact that they had some was just fantastic, and that was the first time I remember kind of being out in a city, wondering like, okay, and I was with a girlfriend who was very, very itty bitty, so in terms of help and her carrying me, that just which wasn't an option on this trip. So when I had to go to the bathroom, it was the first time that I really had to start figuring out, okay, like I'm not like where do I think an accessible bathroom could possibly be? So, I checked shopping centers, and then I found hotels, like lobbies of really nice hotels, in Berlin. Usually had really nice, accessible bathrooms. So that's kind of, what I would think about. So really lit those two trips definitely lit huge fires underneath me, and definitely combined to be, what, I call today wheelchairtraveling.com.
Yeah.
Just because I want to get that information out and, share experiences and guides and, tips and tricks, and just so so I can go and to more places, because I've actually opened it up to other riders as well. So I'm getting tips myself, but then I'm also sharing stories and guides myself.
Right. So when you went to USC, what did you study? What was your initial sort of goal from going to USC?
I was very unsure on what to do, and at the end of my sophomore year, my counselor just basically made me declare something, and I went with communications just because I do love to write, and I could speak fairly well, and I'm okay. Well, maybe I can develop this skill. Could see it being coming in handy somehow. And it's not even just writing and communication. It's running a website, and how communication in a bigger sense actually works. And actually also when I was there, I studied music industry as well. And so by the time I was a junior and senior, I was definitely determined to use, communication music industry in a very specific way. I was looking at doing broadcasting, like radio broadcasting specifically was a huge passion of mine, because I really wanted to influence and change radio in a positive way. It was kind of just going down the wrong way, and they weren't able to adapt with the changing of the digital world and whatnot. And so I was actually able to work on a huge project at USC to transform radio and giving them ways to advertise and really bring in this whole digital age. Having DJs having a profile, and whatnot, being able to connect to people and having them like be this like almost like more of a celebrity status, and having radio being more live and locally based, and like really pumping up that aspect, and lots of other things. I could talk about that forever.
Yeah.
But then I also had a huge passion for live music as well. And so that's actually what I ended up going into after I graduated. Actually, I was I was the assistant manager to some indie artists when I first graduated college for probably about a year or so. And then I got a job at this winery in Livermore called Wente Vineyards, and I was an assistant to all the salespeople there, planning all the conferences and golf tournaments and weddings and events and whatnot. Beautiful space. But the main reason why I was there is because they also have an amazing concert summer series. And when I was there, we were doing like 14 shows, and now I think they cut that pretty much in half, which
oh no.
It's not just, it's not just because of me, but I know I did a lot for that, and putting that together and making that all happen, and for a very, 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 very small fee. Okay. And so that was a huge passion of mine, and so I was doing that for a while, and coordinating absolutely everything, and then I was doing the wheelchair traveling site on the side for a number of years, and one day I just decided, okay, I'm just gonna put my everything into the site and just make it work, and here I am today.
Great. What is your, I neglected to ask you this, what is your level of injury?
My level of injury is like T12 L1.
Okay. And is it a complete injury, do you know? or an incomplete?
I was originally told that it was complete, but then later on, much later on, doctors have speculated that it could possibly be incomplete. So
Okay.
there goes the mystery of the medical world.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Are you able to do any kind of ongoing therapy or exercises to maintain the integrity of your body, or do you think that all the traveling that you're doing is the equivalent of a full-time physical therapy program?
Well, traveling, I mean, I like to travel as much as possible, but I don't think it can equate enough to having, physical, having it be my only way of exercising for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, you're in a wheelchair, especially in a manual wheelchair, and you're pushing and you're on your phone or typing, you're bending your body forward, closer to your legs all the time. And so it's really important to stretch your body the exact opposite way, including your hips, in order just to keep, blood flowing and just, joints and everything in place as much as possible. I mean, my goodness, my body is definitely not as good as it should be and as aligned as it could possibly be, but, I mean, it's something that I do work at because it's important.
Okay.
Just to keep your body healthy and being able to, go out to a park and push around, and have the endurance to be able to do that. You have to kind of keep up at it. But I don't go crazy. I mean, I definitely, my daily life honestly can some days be a lot in enough in itself, can be exercise in itself, I swear. But I do have, I like to use, bands, just because I just like to do the stretching and just the repetition. I'm strong enough. I don't necessarily need to have bigger muscles. I just need to work them and, get that blood flowing. But then sometimes I do use, 2-pound weights if I, want to get a little something more. But
Very good.
that's kind of been my trend recently. I definitely have done 8 and 10-pound weights for chest press and stuff like that. But
right.
I feel like my body's, but yeah, enough about that.
Very good. All right, that's great. So you started the website roughly about 10 years ago, and what were your expectations initially?
I just wanted to create a space for myself to, let me start that over. I wanted to create a space where I could share my experiences, just so the next person who, went to wherever I went didn't have to spend so much time and energy, searching and calling and making sure, okay, is this actually accessible, and calling a hotel, asking for pictures, or, trying to get as much information as possible. And then even with that, and people's intentions may be very, very good, and then they might actually get to this destination or hotel or so on, and it's just not exactly what they, had in mind or what they thought they were capable of doing. So I really, I definitely saw that need, and there were a couple of blogs out there, but I really wanted to create something that was just way more searchable friendly, whether it's you want to search by country, or you're just, you're a venture traveler, or you're looking, just to, and if you want to do something that's very historical, or you just want to go backpacking around Europe, and, you don't want to have a tour, you just kind of want to go, with the wind and just kind of explore and whatnot, just to kind of understand if, how and if that was possible for an individual. And I would say definitely from the get-go as well, even though I started with myself, it was always an envision from the very, very beginning that I definitely wanted to include as many people as possible in this project. All different levels of abilities and people from all around the world, because we all have different perspectives and we all have different interests and different needs, and what we're willing to put up with and so on is just all different. So I really wanted to kind of paint that picture for people, so people could really kind of understand if a destination really worked for them or not.
Okay, but for all practical purposes, you're the only sort of person that is an employee of wheelchairtraveling.com. You're the owner of the site, but you're the main sort of contributor to this site. You don't have any employees. It sounds like you have a lot of individuals that collaborate and with you.
Yes, I mean, I definitely have paid people in the past. It's nothing, exorbitant or anything like that, but I definitely have paid people in the past for certain trips. It all just depends, on people's situations, and it depends where kind of I'm at, with, budget-wise and whatnot. But I do like to give if that is needed, and that's kind of an incentive for people. I like to be flexible with that because I understand. I completely get it. So I don't actually have, any official employees. I do sometimes might contract some work out, like some advanced coding stuff.
Right,
but I do, all the coding, customer service, organization of the site, refreshing, billing, sales, marketing, absolutely every little thing. And then some video editing. It's a lot of work. It's definitely, almost an everyday thing, because then like managing the server and, when things get hacked or whatnot, it can be
stressful,
it can definitely be stressful, especially when you're trying to grow. And then, I've definitely gotten hacked a number of times, and this isn't actually the only site that I've had as well. It's the site, just like life, everything kind of has to continually evolve. So as as I kind of get more ideas and I'm able to grow and new things change, especially with technology and websites and whatnot, I definitely try to keep up with that, just so I can give people what they want in a very clean, organized way. So it makes most sense, and it just gets people out there as fast as they want to get out there, or it gives them as much information as they want. Some people really want to really know every little detail. There's some places that I would want to know that, but then sometimes, a lot of the time, I like to just be like a little free bird and just kind of might have one or two agendas in mind, but then just kind of feel it out once I actually get to the location.
Okay. Do you make a point of going to if you're going to go visit the same, let's say, country, or even the same city within a country, do you make a point of staying at a different facility, hotel-wise, or do you go to?
Oh yeah, I always try to go somewhere different.
Okay, all right.
I might have to return to a city for whatever reason, because that just happens sometimes when you have to do like business or conferences or whatnot.
Yeah.
Or it just happens, and but I try to do that just for the diversity, so I really try to have, there has been a couple of times through my 501c3, I've been able to get some really nice, really nice hotels, donated and whatnot, but I've also stayed at lots of hostels, which is kind of actually a favorite way for me to travel, because for me, it's not really about staying in the room, it's about the destination itself, and as long as I can sleep and shower, in a reasonable, safe environment, then that's fine, and of course clean and healthy as well. But
right, okay, very good.
There's lots of options.
Excellent.